Hello, everybody. This is the Peaceful Revolutionary Sylvain Rochon. This week, I wanted to do something a little bit special, just because, again, I'm inspired by articles that come into the news, and at the same time, we're within a period of Thanksgiving Day in Canada. Thanksgiving is celebrated in October. In the U.S., it's celebrated in November. And I had this article. This is like a couple of weeks ago, from Oklahoma City, where they replaced Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day. Now, Columbus Day, I believe, is October 12th. Sorry. Okay, I don't really know when that's celebrated. October 12th. Yeah, that's right. And this is not the only city where there's other places in the U.S. where they don't celebrate Columbus Day at all. And I was doing the research on these recently. Sorry, geez, I have too many pages set up here. Um, anyway, there's several states in the U.S. where it's not celebrated. I just can't really find them now that I'm looking for them. So man. Anyhow, in Hawaii, Alaska, Oregon, South Dakota, and Vermont, they don't recognize Columbus Day. There you go. They don't recognize it at all. However, in Hawaii, South Dakota, and Vermont, they mark the day with an alternative holiday of observance of some sort. So they still celebrate something else. In Oklahoma, it's been celebrated for a number of years. And this celebration is about Christopher Columbus, 1492, discovery of the Americas. And I can understand why some people just don't think it's so important, because it's such a long time ago. It's Europeans. We consider ourselves as North American now, and so that particular day doesn't really carry a lot of meaning. And most people don't really have a lot of stuff to do on Columbus Day. They're just happy not to work. And some people, like including the Aboriginal people of Oklahoma City, they decided, well, Columbus didn't discover anything. It's really, it should be something that was local to here, and really the natives were there first. The Aboriginal people were there first, not the Christopher Columbus. So it should be, Aboriginals Day, which is perfectly fine. I love this because you're kind of updating different traditions to a proper meaning. Because the conquerors, or the people that dominate, usually dictate what the celebrations are. They dictate rites and rituals inside a culture. So yeah, let's update Columbus Day to something that is way more recent that we care about. And yeah, I do agree. Like the Aboriginal people should be recognized as people that were here first. The Europeans did discover the Americas for the Eastern world, for the Americas and not the Americas, sorry, Europe and China and Asia, because they didn't know it existed. There was a discovery there, but it already existed before for the natives, for the Aboriginals. It's home. It's not a discovery, right? They probably discovered Europeans exist at about the same time. I mean, it's just mutual discovery. But because the Europeans dominated, then all of a sudden it becomes all about the Europeans, all about Columbus, all about France and Spain and Portugal, depending on who's looking into it, and how Europeans created such culture and country. Well, there was a culture here, and it was stamped and stomped and ignored and set into reserves. So we should actually recognize that a lot more than we do now. And removing Columbus Day is actually a really good move, and recognizing who was actually here, and thanking the Aboriginal peoples for being here and their contribution to our now more collective, I guess, culture, including myself and a lot of people over here in North America. We have Aboriginal blood because of generations and genetics and all that stuff. It's part of us, and we are part of them as well. Hopefully, they consider that at this time. Now, this whole kind of discussion makes me want to talk about more common and celebrated celebrations because, I mean, if we're second guessing the reason why we would celebrate or not Columbus Day, we have to think about major holidays that really, I mean, we're celebrating, we're having a lot of fun, and we consider them much more important. But why do we consider them important? And that's really the question, right? Christmas is arguably the biggest celebration we have during the year, whether you are a Christian believer or not. It's just because it's so commercialized, and I think especially the Christian people that do celebrate it religiously should know that no one knows, including most scholars, well, all scholars, don't know when Jesus Christ was born. They have no idea. A few people were able to make educated guesses throughout history about when he was born. So a lot of people are saying, well, it's really symbolic. No, it's not symbolic, guys. Okay, December 25th was Saturnalia at the time. That was a real Roman holiday. Okay, a Roman holiday, and I'm posting all the links for information so you can explore for yourself as always. Saturnalia, Saturnalia was a Roman holiday festival in honor of the deity Saturn. It was typically the December 17th, but the festivities like really like trailed on to the 25th in general, or 23rd depending. And it was really a banquet, private gift giving, partying. Some of the laws were not in place anymore. Like people were able to gamble, where even by law you weren't allowed to. Things like that. Um, and even there's some reversal of roles. Back in the day, the Romans had slaves, and the masters actually served the slaves during that festival to kind of reverse things. And it was like general, like all permissive partying, which actually sounds kind of funny. It sounds a lot like Christmas. No, there's no indication of putting a tree in the house, though. That actually comes from Northern Europe, where around that same amount of time they were celebrating, well, actually hoping in keeping a part of the life, because it was snow in winter, keeping part of of life alive, so that in spring it would grow again. So they would bring in branches of trees, usually fir, because they kept their leaves or needles in those cases, bring them into the house as a way of attempting to keep things alive, and hopefully spring will come and things will go back again. Because they didn't know whether or not spring would come back every year. They just anticipated it because it happened every year. But you know, gods can be fickle, so let's bring some branches in. So Saturnalia or Christmas is really a mix of Saturnalia, it's a Roman festival, and some other pagan celebrations that were kind of in the same period that were very enjoyable. And when the Catholic Church started dominating the Roman Empire and elsewhere, they wanted their own celebrations to be held, and they also wanted to remove the pagan festivals, but they had a really hard time at it. So you know, people would celebrate the Christian ones and the pagan ones at the same time because they had such a long fun. It's a big tradition. They didn't want to remove it. So what happened is that the Catholic Church just decided that that Jesus was born in the same period, so they have to celebrate that instead. At least that's what they thought people would do. But instead, what people did instead of doing two celebrations at two different dates, they did the one and celebrated Jesus Christ with the tree and the gift giving and the partying. They kind of mixed everything up because nobody likes to remove a party from their calendar, I guess. So it all got mixed up and got called Christmas. And so they now, like to me, since I'm not Christian, I'm not deist, I'm an atheist, and I'm Aurelian and all that stuff. I mean, I do love Saturnalia. I call it that whenever I want to express it because I really love the gift giving and the partying and all that stuff. That's all good. But I don't want to celebrate Jesus' birth because he's not born the 25th anyway. I do appreciate the guy. He did great things. So I do nod to him like, great job, Jesus, along with the other prophets. And I do celebrate the other prophets because they all need a big thumbs up for bringing love and harmony and justice to all sorts of parts of the world. So we need to be fair and educated people, right? Christmas is not a I mean, it's a Christian holiday, but it's really a pagan holiday. That's where it comes from. It's kind of mixed. I'm not saying we should replace Christmas with something else. I should I, probably more saying that we should have our own versions of it depending on our belief systems and whether or not we want to celebrate it. And we have to understand where it comes from. Maybe we want to update it to just like let's party every year along with the New Year's. Why not, right? Um, let's celebrate the right things for the right reasons. Especially if you're not Catholic, don't celebrate Christmas. Celebrate Saturnalia. So just have a big party and call it whatever you want, right? Same thing with. I was looking into Easter as well because I was very curious of where does the friggin' rabbit comes from. And I figured it would be a pagan festival, and of course it is. It comes from a bunch of stuff, but normally it's thought of something again it's pagan. Um, a bunch of festivals from yesteryear that happen in the spring equinox. Because they really were looking at the moon and the cycles and things like that. They were celebrating different phases of the moon in different parts of the year at the time, for in different parts of the cultures. Now, in the spring equinox, what happened is that they had all sorts of celebrations, but more importantly, there was a pagan festival of Easter. Easter is a great northern goddess whose symbol is the rabbit or hare, right? And it was very common to exchange eggs during that festival. It's a very ancient custom. Now, in Christian areas, again, just like Christmas, they wanted to remove the pagan festival, so they declared that Easter is something else. And with the Christians decided, well, Easter is going to be a celebration of that has a religious importance, but people didn't want to. Again, they don't want to remove all the party and the gift giving and all and the exit exchange and all this stuff. They don't want to give away the name. In this case, they kept it Easter instead of Easter, and so we give each other chocolate eggs and treats and stuff at Easter. And there's a bunny rabbit in there that is actually a representation of a northern goddess back like a long time ago when people were actually like using that as an image for their god. So it's a mix of stuff. And again, Easter I love because I love sugar and I love chocolate. But remember where this comes from. This is a crazy holiday that has no business in our modern lives because I mean the equinoxes that's kind of nice, but they don't really affect us, and we know this, right? It's just really a party. It has no meaning. If you assign a meaning to it because you're Catholic or religious and has stuff, well, go for it. But I recommend call it something else because Easter is not the Christian name for it. It's actually the pagan name for it. So let's put the right names to the right holidays and why you're celebrating it. Here's another one. Here's another one. I love it. Uh, Saint Valentine's, and this one I knew was going to be kind of silly, and I've researched this one before. I just didn't remember most of it. Nobody knows. I mean, there's a lot of Valentine, like Saint Valentines or potential saints that were called Valentines over the years. But again, this is a pagan-rooted holiday. It comes from Lupercalia, and something I discovered on this side, and I'm putting the right link below, is that I didn't know how it was celebrated back in the day, and it's probably different cultures where it was celebrated. It is a celebration of fertility, which I knew. I had researched that before. But the Romans, how they called it Lupercalia, and how they did celebrate the fertility. Male goats were considered a symbol of fertility back in the day, so they usually dress. They usually got two goat pelts, the skins of goats, right? They adorned two naked young men with these. these goat pelts, and they had them run around town in the dark and slap people's asses and backs with pieces of pelt, and that would actually hopefully help with the fertility of these young men that were being slapped by the goat adorned fellas that were running around, and that's the actual source of Valentine's Day from the Roman festival, and it was in fact held on February 15th. Pope Gelasius he recasted that pagan festival as a Christian feast day around 496 A.D. and declared February 14th to be Saint Valentine's Day. So he just decided, well, now we're not doing this anymore. Instead, we're just doing, this is going to be a feast, celebration of love. Call it Saint Valentine's Day in honor of a saint that he named, apparently Valentine, but we can't find which one that is anymore, apparently. And it is not about no more running with goat pelts on your backs. That's crazy. That's unreal. That's Satanism and whatever. So he actually replaced it. Again, it's always a symptom of in those cases the church trying to remove paganism and those weird paganistic rituals and replacing them with their versions, and then the people just mixing stuff up. And thankfully, we don't have really a strong mix of the original pagan holiday, St. Valentine's Day, and the modern one, because then maybe we'd be like adorning ourselves in pelts and wearing fur coats, whatever it was, whatever it would be doing. But still, the idea is that I can't speak. The celebration exists because the original people, the pagans, believed that doing their activity at night with the guys running around help with the fertilization of guys' sperms, which we know doesn't help at all. And the only reason the new version exists is because the Catholic Church wanted to eliminate the old pagan ritual. It doesn't have any bearing with the church belief itself, contrary to Easter in some way and Christmas in some way. These are actually even though they exist, like there's some relevance to what the Catholics believes, they're really weak reasons to celebrate. It's mostly creation of celebration just to abolish or to try to remove the pagan one. And 2,000 years later, or 1,500 years later, we're still celebrating these things, and we think we know why we're doing it, and we're doing it. Like Valentine's Day, I don't celebrate at all because it's just nuts. Why would I celebrate that as a particular day when I should be celebrating love and harmony and peace every single day? Makes no sense. I'm not trying to cover up a pagan ritual here. I mean, I don't really care. I mean, I would love to see two guys, with pelts running around. That would be kind of fun, but they won't be fertilizing anybody. I know that. Christmas, a nice party, great with friends. That's what it is today. If you're a Christian, maybe it means something different. But celebrate Jesus' holiday maybe at a different date. That way, you have your Christmas holiday, which is just a party, Saturnalia, really. And then you have your Christmas holiday, and you have your Saturnalia. Choose two different dates. Have some fun with it, right? I mean, I would rather do that, and don't bother us with all your Jesus stuff on our Saturnalia day because we just want to party like crazy, and we don't want to think about God or anything like that, which I believe doesn't exist anyway. Create more parties, like continue believing in what you believe, separated from the pagan holiday. And if us atheists want to continue celebrating the pagan holiday because shits and giggles and whatnot, we'll continue doing it. Why not? And just because we want to have some fun, not because we actually believe they have any impact on nature, of course. So put that in your head, everybody. Rethink everything, right? Everything that you're doing, if we want to change things in the world, we have to second guess everything we're doing and why we're celebrating things. Look it over, like I just did with the major holidays. Like most of these, I don't really celebrate unless there's a party involved. But now I'm putting more thought into it. Like, do I want to celebrate this and this and that? Because it gives weight to the belief system that make it happen, and also the covering of the previous philosophy that, in these cases, the church tried to cover up. So if we want to be responsible revolutionaries, we have to kind of think about this thing, right? And we have to deal with the families that kind of wonders like, well, how come you're sending me a Saturnalia card instead of a Christmas card? And explain it to them, educate people. It's not a life or death situation here. It's just like getting ourselves trained to second guess, to look at things through, and to do things that make sense instead of just doing it out of habit or out of tradition. Traditions can be good if they're conscious tradition. If you know this tradition is good to you, you know exactly what it means, and you know exactly why you're doing it, and it's good for you. That's good. It's more of a discipline than a tradition. If you're just doing it because everybody's doing it, you don't really research it, and you don't know, then you're just following the crowd, and nobody should be following any crowd. We know where that leads, and that never leads to very good things, including emptying your wallet of money just because somebody declares that it's some holiday from the past. Anyway, that's going to be it for today, but just keep that in mind. I wish you happy Thanksgiving Day, because that's coming. So, and I forgot to mention that one, actually. Thanksgiving Day is actually pretty cool. It is about thanks for the previous harvest, because it's in the fall, and hoping for the next harvest is going to be good. So you celebrate with food. It's fairly recent, so I guess it's not very confusing. It was born in 1600s, 1700s, depending on Canada, U.S., that kind of deal. It's pretty self-explanatory. Give thanks to who you want to give thanks to for the nice food we have. I give thanks to the Elohim for creating life and the food. Some people thank God. I would like to thank the Aboriginals, because they helped my ancestors like 350 years ago survive the winters here by giving them food in the fall when they was running out, or they thought the winter was going to be terrible. Thank you for all these people for allowing me to be here, and for us to have all this nice food we can eat at, and have like as many parties as we can over the year. That's going to be it for today. I hope you have a great time, and as many parties as you possibly can, and enjoy life. I'm going to catch you next week. Ciao for now.